Welcome to part 2 of our podcast with DORN Companies and Dr. Tony Hall from Instinctive Movement Systems.
Most people don't want to miss work. They want to be back to work, have their life normal. But oftentimes when I see patients in a work comp case and they now finally see me after 3 or 4 months, their lifestyles drastically change. Now getting them back into that work mode is very, very challenging. And so I think that concept you hit on is, even if it's light duty, getting them back to work right away within just a day or two after the initial onset is so important for their mental well-being as well as physical.
Well, and that's true. And we wrote a white paper about a year ago on the psychological and secondary issues related to pain. And it's significant, the impact that it has on an employee who, I get to stay home from work and I'm getting paid and stuff, but really it just disrupts their whole life. And eventually it disrupts the life of the people around them, their family. And then, things like depression or medication reliance, things of that nature. And, what we find, to be honest with you, we find things like 42% reduction or elimination of medication use. We find 59% absenteeism reduction. Productivity gains of sometimes over 100%. And now these are the people that we work with. This isn't the whole business. These are the individuals we work with because we survey them. And then we have university studies that support all these things. And at the end of the day, I can tell you about our program, the other programs that are out there. There's a lot of good ones. I would say the differentiation is we add in that manual therapy, but our annual ROI for clients is anywhere from 300 to 600 on up. We have a client that we stepped in the middle of 2016, and we got a letter from them at the end of 17 that said, your program in 2017 alone created 50% incident reduction, not injuries, just incidents, and saved us $2 million in 2017 for worker comp costs. They had a very large ROI on their investment. So the programs are there. What I tell people is, these programs, again, whether it's us or somebody else, it's the avoidance of anywhere from 1 to 3 claims a year, and you paid for these programs. But it's the other benefits that are brought to it. The morale improvement. 97% of the people we work with say they've had a significant improvement in morale. We have people who are taking ownership of exercising and self-care. I always say they're getting off the couch and walking around the block with their dog, their spouse, their kid. They're doing more and more, which then translates back into the organization with higher productivity, lower healthcare costs. It's a multiplier effect that happens. And, we've all studied presenteeism. I show up to work, but I'm not really there because I'm just not there today. A lot of times it's, they could just be tired and fatigued, but a lot of times it could be because of issues related to musculoskeletal pain.
Going on the point you just brought up, is one of the major drivers of claims that I've seen with companies is culture. Companies with, for lack of a better term, a bad culture or a non-safety culture, non-employee type based culture, is they tend to have more claims for a lot of reasons. A lot of them are just simply retaliation claims. Yeah. And I find that when you provide a service like you do, or a service like what we provide too, is very valuable, because the employees really appreciate it. And all the things you said about efficiency, productivity, morale, everything goes up when you have that positive safety culture. And too often in the safety world today, the safety field typically is judged by their numbers, right? How many claims, we can show cost savings and reduction in OSHA rates and things like that. But at the end of the day, when you are out there helping people, making them feel better, and the company or the employees see that you are providing that service, it's a major thing when it comes to improving the culture of an organization. And when companies will hire you, or even an IMS program like that, they're companies that are more progressive in that sense. And
I'd say a couple things, Tom, on that. We have 2 sets of clients. We have the ones who actually have very few claims. And what they see is this is a reinvestment in their employee base. They might have a tenured workforce or something of that nature. And they're investing for the future to ensure that those people don't become claims. If I'm 55 years old working in that factory on my 30th year, I am at higher risk than I was 20 years ago, not only on the severity of it, but the length of it, because the studies show that the older you are, the longer you're going to be out all the costs. So we love those clients. To measure the ROI, because they have very few claims, so we sit down and say, okay, what else can we measure? Absenteeism, medication reduction, things like, productivity gains, restricted time away, those type of things. So we can measure that. And then we have the other clients who just have injuries all over the place. And you're right, it starts with the culture. We didn't start this business to be the cultural shift and the cultural change agent, but in a lot of cases we are. And if a client that has a lot of issues ends up being one of those longer term clients, because our clients are around 8, 10, 12, 14 years, then we've helped shift the culture. If that client's a one and done or 2 years and done, you know what's happened? Their culture at the management level didn't change, and they're just not, we can only do so much. And if they're not willing to be part of that solution, then they were probably not a good client to begin with.
In our experience too, is that in the work environment today, and depending on the field, of course, they're having a hard time finding employees. I mean, there are a lot of jobs available, and something like this could give them the edge to say, no, this is a great place to work. I want to stay here because of these types of programs that,
Absolutely.
Like you said, it's very difficult to determine. In the early stage, it's easy to get an ROI on injury claims because you'll see those drop rapidly.
Absolutely.
Just like losing weight, that first 50 pounds comes off real quick, but it's that next 25 to lose that's a little bit tougher, and keeping that system going. So the culture is so predominant today, and anything you can do to improve a company's culture where the employees really appreciate that is very, very valuable. And I totally agree with the aging of the workforce and engaging the aging workforce, because a lot of them at that point at 50 years old are like, it's too late. I can't do this anymore, right? You can't do anything to help me out. But as time goes on and the culture changes, they realize the value of it will probably take place. I have a rule I call 45-20 rule, which means when we look at claims, and more importantly, cost of claims, we see a significant jump at 45 years of age or older, 20 years of service or more, is a high jump in claims. And things to help that high tenured workforce is extremely important.
No, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right in that, because I look at our programs, and obviously DORN's been around about 20 years and we've been through a few recessions. We don't lose many clients during the recession. We don't become the cost item that gets cut. Now, things may scale back a little bit, but when you have these type of programs, people will stay with you. They won't go across the street for 50 cents or $1 more an hour because of what you're doing for them. And so, it's hard to always tell the C-suite. It's hard to tell the CFO sometimes, this program is paying such dividends. We don't want to eliminate it during our economic slowdown here, because we'll end up losing employees depending on the industry and all that good stuff. This is kind of segmented, but absolutely, it becomes a retention program. It becomes many, many different things. And one last statistic, we find that about 95% of the people we work with are willing to try other company programs because of the program they're involved in with us. So if the company does have a wellness program, we've all talked to companies and clients that, we have one, but it doesn't get any traction. Who can lose the most weight in the department? What we actually find is these programs generate enough positive feedback and positive reaction to them that employees are willing to try these other programs. So that's why we kind of transformed our program from this body work to, we call our programs BBE, for body, behavior, and environment, because if you focus on all three, the physical body, the musculoskeletal, the MSDs, the behaviors, changing their behaviors, and then the environment, be it ergonomic and reviews or whatever it might be. If you take that three-pronged approach, you really make a significant change. And then when things are tighter, your employees stay. And sometimes it becomes a recruiting tool. So absolutely right, Tom.
Okay. Hey, Kevin, Dr. Tony here again. I want to be a little bit of a devil's advocate. Let's put nuts and bolts. Let's say we're going to put something like this in place. And I want for some of our listeners or our medical people out there, answer some of their concerns. So your on-site people, do they have some kind of additional training? So when they see somebody that has a little bit of a riskier injury, I mean, what kind of intervention or strategies do they have to make sure we don't have to worry about that person with a severe injury or illness?
So a couple of things. Our model is we go to market, we utilize massage therapists. The reason we chose massage therapists, and we do have competitors that use chiropractors, and we have competitors that use PTs. The reason we chose massage therapists is, in all honesty, by OSHA standards, they're considered first aid. And so that was the main purpose and the main reason that went. So that's back 15, 20 years ago. So, but what the training they go through is they go through a pretty intense training program. They go through about 32 to 35 hours of classroom training with our trainers. And it's a pretty intensive training program. From there, they go through about another 15 to 20 hours of online system training and other training related to protocols, related to our systems, our terminology, things of that nature. Then they go through a pretty intensive interview process with two of our people, one East Coast, one West, to see if they're a cultural fit for that client, so that all those things, all those great things we just described over the last 15, 20 minutes, they're given because we're putting the right people at the right place. So we do a lot of then other training.
Okay. So I'm a doc who works in a medical center, right? Like I said, I want to be devil's advocate. My concern would be, okay, if somebody tears a rotator cuff and they can't lift their arm, I want to make sure somebody isn't doing a bunch of deep massage on it, or if somebody blows out a disc in their back and now they can't lift their foot because the nerve is being squashed and needs surgery. I want to make sure that person doesn't just get some manual therapy. They get to see the right person. With your people, you must have some kind of a committee or oversight or training to make sure that doesn't happen, right?
So a couple of things. So the short answer is yes, but a couple of things to respond to that. Number one, if somebody tears a rotator cuff or something else, they're going into the system. The only time we're working on them is if we're scripted. So that, we're not working on somebody that actually has a true injury that they should go into the comp system. And so the ACMED doctors we work with around the country write us as a script to either complement PT or to basically, in a lot of cases, be the solution. When you're talking about an early intervention and prevention program, yeah, we definitely train our folks to look for certain signs, because we will find out very easily in the first session if we don't believe we're going to have any help to be able to help that person. And, a lot of people might say, well, okay, massage therapists, they're not PTs, they're not chiropractors, but you know what? They understand the body. They know what's there. They know what to look for. They know what to stay away from. And we will tell that client, I can't help Tony. He needs something different than what we offer. But the other piece of it is, we've been pulling together kind of an advisory board of a pain doctor, a chiropractor, another person who has the PhD who studied the psychological impacts of pain. So to help give us additional guidance to allow for our people to be, again, more aware. I will tell you, Tony, in all reality, in 20 years, we've had probably a handful of people who said, you bruised me. And really, we can't bruise them with what we're doing. We've never had anybody say, you put me in the hospital, you put me out of work. It just doesn't happen. And because, myofascial release is different. And if we get in there and we find out, they've got a torn rotator cuff or something of that nature, they don't need to be at work, and they don't need to be with us. They need to be in the system.
Sure. So basically what we're talking about is, with all these people out there with a multitude of musculoskeletal injuries, we want to offer them kind of a first line attack on the bulk of these injuries by doing some manual work. But yet with your model and the IMS model, it's actually multidisciplinary: medical, psychological, massage, physical therapy, chiropractic, but implementing them in a much more financially strategic way than traditional.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think, when you look at our program, when it's on the worker comp side, we can help from the eliminating the pain and do some work hardening to get them back to full duty very quickly. On the preventative side, it's really like I said, we're focused on the body, the behaviors, and the environments to avoid injuries. Now, if somebody says, boss, I hurt my back, we can still help them. And usually within 4 to 6 sessions, they are 100% pain-free and they're not really missing much time at work. But if somebody says, I hurt, again, the company can't direct care. If the person wants to go see the doctor, they can still go see the doctor. We work with third party. We have channel partners that are these 1-800 triage, or they're the on-site medical with the nurses. We utilize them as a feeder system for those who say, I hurt my back. We don't want to make that. I will tell you, our people make zero diagnosis because we don't want to be in that game. So we hopefully in those environments, the nurse is telling us this person wants to see you guys before they go to the doctor, whatever it is. We let those companies who are the experts really do the triaging and feed our system. The rest of the people are those who, I've been doing this job for 10 years and my shoulder is sore all the time. They're not injured. They just need some support.
Sure. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right. Well, hey, Kevin, first of all, I'd like to apologize to our listeners. I know we've had some audio challenges with this thing, but with you calling in, at least we got a lot of good information out there and some interesting insight. How would our listeners be able to contact you? What's the best way to find the DORN companies and you?
Well, my email is kevin@dorncompanies, plural.com. You can call me, 303-641-8794. But, send me an email. They can go to our website, dorncompanies.com, to learn more about us and our BBE model, which goes beyond the therapy side and really brings in ergonomics, biomechanics, even some technology solutions. But yeah, if they just want to chat more about things, that's great. If they want to hear more about what we do, that's great. We're here to help, and we do a lot of speaking, as you know, Tony, to really try to educate people. I think the more we can educate people in the risk management, safety arena, whether it's your group or our group or third party group, that's okay too. The more that we can help the workforce out there, and there are more and more companies coming around in these areas, I think the better. The better off this whole economy is going to be, and employees and organizations.
Yeah, you said it there. It's not just controlling workers' comp costs, but it's risk management and it's culture, and our solution is prevention, and your solution is early intervention and other methodologies. So this has been excellent. Thanks for your insight, Kevin. And if, like I said, our people will reach out to you if they have any questions.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate your energy and your time today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Bye-bye.